Hello and welcome back to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. We are nearly a week and a bit out from Christmas. So today we're going to get in a very zen mode and we're going to reset and recharge through yoga and breathwork with the Active Yogi, Kate Kendall. Kate, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Steph. Thank you for having me.
We're going to, it's a zen topic, but we're going to go as quick as we can. You've got a class to teach. I've got a Lady Gaga concert to get to. So we're going to get through it. So I'm going to jump straight in. I just want to ask you, like so many of my guests, your life pivot seems to have come after a period of burnout. Can you talk us through the work that you do now and your journey that led you here?
Wow, I feel like I've had a few pockets of burnout, and
Mm.
recovery from burnout is never a straight line. And if you're susceptible to it, you probably, my experience, that I've fallen back into it more than once.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, so I guess, you know, I really think, and I always think that my journey with burnout started really when I was a teenager and I was suffering from an eating disorder. And just all that pressure I put on myself for perfectionism and striving for being special. That was always my thing. That always drove my eating disorder, was this idea that I needed to be special and better and always doing something remarkable. And in many ways that, before that eating disorder kicked in, like if I look back at my life, I was already amazingly special and I was this gifted athlete and had lots of friends. I had a beautiful upbringing in the country and then went to boarding school, and I had great friends that I'm still friends with there now. And so I was already there. It was just an illusion in my mind that I wasn't special enough. And funnily enough, when I got sick, then the athletic talents kind of subsided because I didn't have the energy. I was fatigued. I was burnt out in a different way. I was burnt out from an eating disorder. And then, that kind of lingered. It appeared that I was recovered, but really I wasn't. And I guess when we opened Flow Athletic, so I opened that with my business partner at the time, and we year one was a typically challenging time, as anyone in a new business, especially small business, knows. Our first couple of months we set up and we set up and we were flying and we're getting all these members, but we were very much in reactive mode. So, we didn't know what we didn't know, and we hadn't set up the right sort of systems. And although my business partner had been in fitness before, and that was his main gig, and mine was freelance yoga teaching, he'd had fitness studios. Um, this was a completely new bag. It was the first Flow Athletic, is what Ben and I started, and it was the first of its kind, really back then, of the boutique fitness sort of space where yoga wasn't just gym yoga and it wasn't just a standalone yoga studio. It was, we really wanted to bring the spirituality and the community and the connection of that beautiful yogic vibe, and marry it up with the fitness. Because at that point, I mean, it's everywhere now, but at that point, no one else was really doing it in a beautiful boutique way.
What year did you open that
So this
Flow
was
Athletic?
13 years ago.
Oh, I didn't even know it was that long. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything was reactive in those first few months. And I was also going through a breakup. I was engaged to be married, and that was falling apart. And so I was, waking up at 4 a.m. to go to work sometimes, and then sleeping on people's couches because I was moving out. So it was crazy.
My
And,
God,
you know,
that's a lot.
and
Energetically, that's a lot.
yeah, you can feel it, right? So teaching all those classes and again, just working so hard because I want this to be special. We want this to be amazing. And yeah, burnt out. And I was really fortunate at that point that one of our members, Anthea Kaluris, she has a beautiful business, Apotheca by Anthea, in Surrey Hills. She's a really well-known, respected naturopath, and I went to her, and she's got this gorgeous mother energy. I'm so grateful for people like that in my life, because you go to them and there's like no judgment. It's just all love, this beautiful healing
It's a
person.
hug for the soul, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, she's just, wow, can't recommend her or rate her highly enough. And it wasn't even really, honestly, I can't remember what she told me to eat. I can't remember what herbs she told me to take. I just remember the love that I received. And I think that's so, so special. And so I also went home to the country for a little bit over the Christmas break. And I was like, I'm teaching all these things in yoga, and yet I'm not doing it for myself. And I feel like a fraud. So then I developed and really came back to some practices that I'd kind of left out because I was so busy all the time. Because you can tend to do that. I know a lot of yoga teachers who, they come into yoga and do yoga because of how it makes them feel, and they get really busy and burnt out and they forget to do it themselves. So I just went back to doing all those things myself. And from that, you know, I was once being interviewed around this course that I had called The Space Between, which was really a result of that burnout. And she goes, "Oh, so your message is in your mess." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah,
Oh,
it
I
is."
love that.
So I
Oh,
created this course called The Space Between back then. It's still on my website for sale. And it's basically, I threw in there all these tools for, yeah, staying well and staying connected to yourself and looking after yourself, all these really simple things. So yeah, that was really that first sort of, I guess, what you'd typically call a burnout. And it was the start of really properly taking care of myself. And for sure, there are times when I have gone too far. I'm quite sensitive. I'm quite, my husband always calls me a sensitive little flower, and so if I tend to not practice boundaries, I will like a flame, right? That flickers. Like there's lots of energy there. There's lots of light, but also very sensitive and very easily snuffed out with not enough boundaries. And I would say only over the past couple of years I've learned to practice really stronger boundaries. And so what did it take? Like, I'm 44. It only took me 43 years.
I'm 42 and I've just got to okay, yeah. And that's what your 40s are for. Your 20s are making the mistakes. Your 30s are starting to realize where you went wrong and implement things. Your 40s are for reaping those rewards. Um,
Mm.
I'm also married to an ex-rugby league player with minimal emotion, so I am the sensitive flower in the house too. I get it. You got to have the yin and yang. It's a perfect marriage,
Yeah.
but perfect mashup. I'm not
Yeah.
perfect marriage, but you know what I mean. I appreciate your story there, the vulnerability you were telling, and there's something that really spoke to me there, particularly the line of striving to be special. And
Mm.
I feel like that's so something, and I was in a performing arts high school and I did dancing and singing, and I still and I also feel like I need to practice what I preach, because I'm always telling people to stop and take the pockets for yourself and fill up your cup. But I'm also an overachiever and a recovering people pleaser, and I just I want to, but I think, who I think this happens to? The people who care. You cared about making Flow Athletic something very, very special, so you burnt out in creating it. And I care about the things that I create and the legacy that I'll leave. I just want to, you know, have something that matters, and that's something that comes up for me a lot. Burnout comes up a lot, and, trying to be something very special and not just to have what I would call a mediocre
Mm.
life, But yeah, but in my 40s, it's that balancing the simple things. And since becoming a mum, it's really brought me into those very simple moments of sitting and playing and being in the stillness. So yeah, thanks
Mm.
for sharing that story. It was vulnerable and very relatable. I
Y-
really I
Being
hear
a
you on
mum,
that one.
being a mum changes everything because you also realize, um, well, some of us will realize that what we're modeling is going to be passed down. And then you get really serious about it. I mean, that's also when during COVID is when I got serious about recovery from my eating disorder, because it lingered for 27 years. And I thought, what am I modeling for her? She doesn't see any behaviors. And, from the outside, I wasn't typically always, I'd fluctuate in weight, but wasn't typically always super, super tiny, as I was back when I was really in the disorder. But yeah, being a mum for me really, really asked me to dig deep and go, what are you modeling? And so, yes, recovery has been about me, but it's also very much about my daughter. And with the special thing, I wonder if you can remember a time in your childhood where like that started for you. Because I
Yeah.
remember it.
You remember? What
I
was it?
I remember the incident, and I remember like something clicking and going, oh, I'm not enough. So I remember like when I was tiny, our family used to go to the snow, and we had a family friend, and the family friend's daughter was the same age as me, and she used to make us little outfits, and we were wearing the same outfit on the ski field, and we came in, and we were all staying in this lodge, and one of the older boys, I think he was like late teens, he picked up this little girl who's the same age as me, blonde hair, she was more your kind of cheruby, cute little girl, and I'm like your rough and tumble tomboy. Picks her up, her on his knee in like a most innocent way, and is just like looking at her going, "You are so beautiful." And I remember sitting there going, "He's gonna say that to me soon." And he didn't. And like, I feel sad for the little girl in me when I look at that story. Like now I go, "Oh, babe, like you were awesome."
And who needs the validation of one person? Like, but you're
It's such
so
a
impressionable
wrong
when you're
and
young.
especially
Yes.
that super subtle, tiny little flower back then. Yeah, so I remember, and like it hasn't been all bad. That striving for special has
It's its
it
benefits.
has its benefits. It's made me strive for excellence and for
Yes.
doing amazing things. So I can't, it's not all bad.
Yeah.
It's driven
Well,
me as well.
sports, performing arts, it's, anything that's competitive. I think you're always about striving for excellence. So
Mhm.
it can be good, but it's when the comparisons and the not enoughness comes in. And funnily enough, the woman I just interviewed before you wrote a book called Enough, and it's about the difference between not enough and enough. And again, as the whole thing is about getting into your 40s, you realize you're innately special just being you. It's such a journey to learn that. But I love that with all my guests, it's
Why is it so hard for us just to be honest? It's like no one.
kids out there that are just born knowing that, and they just never lose it? Or is it, I'm sure, because I feel like all kids are born, like, when you watch little kids, my son's 16 months old, they think everything about them is fantastic. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? Like he looks in the mirror with just delight at himself. And,
yeah,
I still look at the mirror and I'm like, so Eli, no, I have to catch myself. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Like, but why judge at all? Just look and smile and move on to the next thing. But yeah,
yeah,
it's just, it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? And I know what you're saying with your daughter. It's certainly they're picking up everything we're putting down, but you also can't be perfect. So you can't like put pressure on yourself to be this perfect person. They can still see some weakness and vulnerability in you, but it's definitely, I'm constantly looking at myself, don't pick up what I'm doing if I do that, something that I don't think is a good trait. So yeah, you do, you watch yourself a lot more when you got little eyes on you, right?
yeah.
Yeah. How can we restore balance in our mind and our body?
Oh gosh, I think that's different for everybody. Yeah, and yeah, because like I remember back in the day, I would get asked to do lots of, a day on the plate and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah.
And I've come to see that now as just being like, oh, what works for her or for him is not going to work for me. And just like restoring balance for me is not, I can definitely share the ways that I restore balance, and probably the number one thing for me, being someone who is more introverted and needs time to be alone to re-energize. It's space, it's quiet time. And then what do I do in that quiet time? So the beginning of the day for me is like everything. The beginning of the day when no one else is awake, it's like
I wake up at 4. What time do you wake up?
I love to wake up at 4 every day, but once Alice is asleep, I'm generally not asleep myself until about 10 or a little
Yeah.
after. So
Yeah.
it's not going to work for me every day.
No.
I do love that time of the morning. It's so special. So I'll generally be up about an hour before everyone else, and I'll do, I've got my altar here. I'll sit down my altar. I'll do some prayers. I might pull a card. I'll do a little meditation and breath work. And then, yeah, my number one practice at the moment is yoga nidra, and I'll do it in the afternoons, generally before I go to school pickup. I know not everyone has the luxury of being able to do that. But that yoga nidra is such a powerful, powerful practice that really have only picked up in the past sort of 6 to 8 months. I mean, I've always known it to be there, and it's always been in the peripheral, and I might dip into it at a workshop or I'm at someone else's workshop, but it's been so changing for me.
I like
So
what you said there, though. It is definitely different for everyone else. So it's about that journey through the self and figuring out what works for you, but also taking those pockets of time. And it is so hard when you're a mum. And that's why I don't want to wake up at 4. My body wants to sleep till 6. But the days I don't do that, I feel like, oh, I've already lost. The day's out of my control now. And when I get that time, so my mornings, like I used to work out to be at the gym at like 5:45. I just, could not do that now. But I have really slow mornings of reading. I listen to a frequency thing, then I'll journal, then I meditate. Then I don't work out till about 9 now. Like I sort of allow myself, the body clock to wake up a little bit now, but it changes all the time. But yeah, it's a journey of finding out what works for you. And it's definitely, I'm an extroverted introvert, so I might be loud, but I recharge in the solitude. So definitely the solitude for me is,
mm.
yeah, I agree with you on that.
And then
Um,
I think for anyone else, just like for anyone else listening, that might also work for you. And then there's obviously other practices. Like I'm at my age now, after an arthritis diagnosis, I'm into strength training. I do it twice a week with a trainer, and there's so actually I feel grateful for that diagnosis because it led me to doing PT. Otherwise, I would have probably just been like, "Oh, the strong yoga classes are enough," or doing a strength class every once in a while. And I bloody love my PT. She is awesome. So I'm grateful that, I have that and
yeah.
it's kept the pains away, and I need to be doing it at my age anyway.
Yeah, for bone density and everything, strength training, yeah, 2, 3 times a week is so important.
And then yoga, I still at the moment, and again, it changes like you're saying, I prefer at the moment. I used to do it in the morning as part of my quiet practice, but now I will do it, yeah, mid-morning or another time, and I'll go to a class. I love being guided at the moment as opposed to doing my own practice, and that's in and out. I'll probably go back to having my own. So I think flexibility is key, and I think anything, again, to circle back to the original question, I think anything that brings us into a place of like flow state, anywhere
Mm,
where we can like slow down enough and get present enough to listen to what's going on internally. And then we can be more responsive to what's going on around us, to how we're feeling on any particular day. And then, we're living more authentically. That whole thing of why is it so hard to be ourselves? Well, because we're so busy reacting, like in that first year of business, reacting to the things we need to, reacting to what everyone else is doing around us. Whereas if we can have those practices, the different ones for all of us that allow us to slow down enough to really listen, then we can be more authentic, and then we feel more balanced and we feel like we balance
absolutely.
out the mind. Yeah.
Yeah, but tuning in and listening to the self too is so key. Like you said there, like what feels right. So that's something that I'm learning to do as I get older. But yeah, definitely taking moments of stillness. The world is so noisy and busy. You just can't do it until you take those pockets of time. But it is hard, if someone's like a mum and full-time work, but you're in charge of your diary. So really blanking out that time for yourself is so crucial. Can you talk us through 5 rituals to feel our best during our period? Mine's due tomorrow, so hit me up with some good.
Okay. So again, stillness, and using like a little quiet time to tune in. I always find on the first day of my period, I am intuitive. Like I will guide a yoga class, and that is coming from somewhere else. Or I'll sit and I'll have all these downloads. And that is the wisdom of our cycle. Like it's always wherever we're at in our cycle, there's wisdom. In the lead up to our bleed, there's like all these emotions and all this unfinished business. So powerful to listen to that. But yeah, quiet time. I don't know about 5 of them, but also lying down on your back and taking posture we call Supta Baddha Konasana. So you lie down, you bring the soles of the feet together, knees out wide. You can do it on your bed, you can do it on your yoga mat, you can do it on the floor, carpeted floor, anywhere you feel comfortable. And it's really a nice kind of restorative way just to even hands onto the belly. Um, I mean, I also really just go back to the old drink, plenty of water, your warm tea, anything that feels like nourishing and like you're really just taking care of yourself. Also spending time with women
Yes.
and like now more than ever in my 40s, I still really enjoy men's company, but I crave women. I
That is so
crave.
funny you say that. I was like Elaine from Seinfeld growing up. Like I was always surrounded by men. I always liked the male company. I'd rather be out the back drinking scotch and, watching sport instead of in the house gossiping and drinking tea and having cake. It's just I've always felt more comfortable. But in my older years, oh my God, do I crave women so, so much. And I worked for a company, you've probably heard of them, The Beauty Chef. It was a wellness
Yeah.
company. And I just left there to do my own thing this year. And oh my God, am I missing the girls? Just that daily interaction with a whole bunch of like-minded women. I crave it so, so much, which is why I look forward to these recordings so much because I'm like, I need more female energy. I'm in a house with a
Yeah.
husband and a son, and I need that female energy. There's something about it. That's why I always say my spirit animal is an elephant. You know how they in the zoo they have all the females together and they separate the male, and they really like have a community of like all the auntie elephants help raise the children.
Uh,
I think they're
yeah.
so spiritual.
And even if you're friends with someone who's like got a big family and culturally it's all about getting together often, like, one of my friends, Gabrielle, she'd always go to her family on Friday for Shabbat. And I don't know, just these big, this certainly isn't my environment. Also, my family lives in the country, but
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said for, and circling back to the elders as holding so much wisdom, even just like watching them cook and learning what they put in the
Aussies don't do
food.
that as much. We definitely sort of lack that side of the culture. I'm half Aussie, half Italian, and definitely there's a lot more culture in the Italian side and lot more rituals. And I really like that. Like it really creates something, doesn't it? Sort of a lineage that, yeah, Aussies, don't necessarily sit down and have together dinners. It might be like just grab what you can. And, I feel like that's
Yeah.
something that we could definitely implement more.
Yeah, and I think that also comes from just living a slower lifestyle. We were just over in the south of France visiting some friends, and we would just have these really long. Well, first of all, they don't get up until, like, 8 o'clock,
Oh,
which, I was like,
my husband's like, "Why can't I get a coffee?" I'm like, "Yeah, they don't do that here." It's like everything starts at like 10, and then they have 3-hour lunch breaks and siestas, and then like, kids' parties start at 10 p.m. Like, very different schedule, yeah.
yeah, but even just like I was glad to come home and have my, where we live in Bronte down at the beach. And even
Oh, beautiful.
just when you wake up in the morning, you can go downstairs at 6 a.m. and have a conversation with someone, which I find as equally as beautiful because you can walk along the beach and have a conversation with someone.
I'm in Cronulla. It's very much the same, the Esplanade. You see all the same
Yeah.
faces. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's
I
different.
like both.
Different, but like, but what I did appreciate about over there is that like dinner times were like a long stretched out dinner, and there was lots of conversation, and it was relaxed.
Well, it's rest and digest. I for years would just shove in food at my laptop while I'm working so I could walk on my lunch break. But they really make an art of a meal, don't they? It's pleasure, it's conversation,
Mhm.
and you digest better. They have less IBS because they're chewing slow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's true. How can yoga and breath work calm our nervous system? That's, regulated nervous system is something that gets thrown around a lot
Yeah.
lately.
Yeah, it's a very hot topic, and for good reason. Like, it's come
Yeah.
back into our peripheral for very good reason because we need it at the moment. Okay, so little story. Before I got into yoga, I just come back from living in the UK. I had been working previously in a digital agency, both in Australia and then when I was away. So very different to what I do now, and grateful for those experiences. Always had amazing teams, very nurtured and supported, but I always felt like something was missing, and I'd be sitting at my desk, my heart would be racing. I just felt what I was doing in particular didn't feel real. It didn't feel like I was selling something was real. It didn't feel authentic. Some people are industry, they do things and it's super creative and they're amazing what they do, and wow. Anyway, came back from living in the UK and I thought I'm going to ease my way into fitness. So I'm going to try yoga. I've heard it's easy. So I'm going to start there. And, mind you, I was still really deeply in the eating disorder. And I went to this studio in North Bondi called the Dharmashala, which at the time was the only yoga studio there. Deities on the wall, carpet on the floor, incense burning. Put my mat next to this guy who's lying there just breathing in this really weird way, which now I this is Ujjayi breathing. He's just settling himself. Everyone's there like 20 minutes early. Now people will arrive like 2 minutes until start. It was so cool, but I was like, whoa, what is this place? Anyway, I fumbled my way through it. I felt like a baby elephant. Speaking of elephants, I'm all fumbling my way through this class. And then I get to the end. We lie down in Shavasana. I remember before I close my eyes, I can watch the sunlight streaming through the window. And I remember the feeling in my body was something that I had not felt. Like, I can't remember feeling it. Really, I remember feeling it when I was a kid living on a property. I remember there was this little body of water, this little like pond that I would go to. It was surrounded by trees. It was super private. It was like my secret place. And I would go there and I knew there was, now I know it was very spiritual, but there was something that made me feel so peaceful there. And so it was the same feeling that I had lying there. And then I walked home that night along the promenade at Bondi, and I started crying. And I cracked
Release.
open. And yeah, a release. So leading up to that, I'd been on meds. I was on antidepressants. And I guess what I was feeling, it wasn't necessarily like joy. What I was feeling was a lot of sadness, and probably sadness that I, hadn't felt, that I hadn't allowed myself to feel. And I thought, is it the yoga? And I went back and I went back. And before I knew it, I had this regular practice, started coming off my meds. And, that's, long, want me to hear, basically. But that, what was it? And what is it that regulated me? It was the breath, slowing down the breath, moving to the rhythm of my breath. I picked that up quite quickly. Sometimes that can take a while to get, but it was moving in rhythm with my breath. It was stacking, the stacking of joints and the energy flow. Definitely something around the prana and the energy flow of that. In yoga, we call chi or energy prana. And there was just this commitment to presence. Like, I couldn't go anywhere. I couldn't do anything else. I couldn't cover anything up. I was just lying there at the end. And I felt like I was at home. And I think that's key as well, is like, yes, breath regulation. I think we underestimate the power of our breath. It's completely free. It's right under our nose. We can even practice regulating the breath through the mouth. Like, we do want to do it through the nose where we can. We want to practice being nose breathers. I mean, this is a whole other podcast around breath. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. But when we regulate the breath, when we can slow down the breath for long enough, it sends a message to our nervous system, we're okay. The body realizes we're okay and we feel at home. That feeling that I had by the pond or in Shavasana, that first class, it's this feeling of being at home in the body. It's this feeling of being safe in the body, because that's what a regulated nervous system is. It's when we feel safe in the body, and we either just naturally have that state, and it doesn't have to be achieved through the breath. It can be achieved through, beautiful hugs and the oxytocin, that gets produced in the body when we do that, and we feel regulated and we feel loved, or we can create the environment for it. So we can change our state. And the breath, in all my years of experience with yoga and meditation and breath work, the breath is by far like that direct thread that gets you to that regulated state quicker than anything else. And there are plenty of other things that we can do to regulate as well, like, plenty of things through the breath, again, that we can do to access the vagus nerve, this big cranial nerve that runs from the brain to the gut. It's a super highway of information and really responsible when we access it for restoration, for regulation. There's certain things we can do with our eyes and tapping things, EFT, there's restorative yoga, there's just so much. And again, it's like rituals that work for us. The rituals that work for me might be different to the rituals that work for you. So to be insanely curious around, like, what helps me feel at peace. But on the breath, there used to be so much around take a deep breath when you feel stressed. That's, yeah, good start, but actually lengthen your exhalation. And anytime that we can
Do you
breathe
make
more,
noises? Because for me, my very best thing is to do a very like loud exhaling. And I always picture it's so random. Remember the movie The Green Mile? I only saw it once where
Yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
I
Oh,
picture this, like, black confetti coming out
yeah,
of my mouth, and
yeah.
that's the negativity in my body, and I just keep doing that loud exhale until I picture it all released, and oh my god, even a 10-minute meditation like, I'll start and I'll sit down and I'll be like, because what you're saying about breath work, it's so fascinating how when I start, I'm like, "Oh, I'm never gonna get calm breathing because 'cause I'm so, like, hyper." And then, like, 5 minutes into it, I'm so still. Like, it actually doesn't take as long as you think if you just keep doing that breathing. Breath work is so powerful.
So powerful. I mean, just to share one type of breath work, which I love, it's just like a tranquilizer.
Mm.
You might start with just sort of some slower restorative breathing and then work your way into like breathing and some more diaphragmatic breathing where you want to focus on breathing out into the ribs and letting the diaphragm move down. So some longer breaths like that. And then you eventually move into breathing into the count of 4, holding for 7, and then breathing out through pursed lips like you've got your lips wrapped around a tiny straw and you're breathing out and you're trying not to snuff out a candle, that kind of gentle for 8. So it's breathe in 4, hold 7, and breathe out for 8. Beautiful. Like that is my go-to. And it's so good because you can really, there were times when we were traveling where there were some stressful travel moments.
Yes,
When
holidays aren't just all relaxing, are they? They're like logistical nightmare as well, especially with Europe. Yeah. It's
and you need a holiday from the holiday.
I wish I'd take like a full week off when I get here to sit down at the beach. No, I
Yeah,
completely agree.
especially family, the family dynamics. Oh my gosh, but we had way more highlights and beautiful moments than there were,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I found myself I'd be in a car, on a train, and just close down my eyes, and we're finally on, and all our bags are fine, and everyone's fine, and we sit down, and I would spend the first few minutes regulating.
Love that. I actually do the 4-7-8, but I've never done the pursed lips, so I'm gonna
Oh.
try that, today. Yeah, that sounds good.
Do you find you can easily exhale for 8 just normally?
Yes,
Like,
I like to hold very long like that. You know, when you listen to some guided meditation, they do it too quick, and I'm like, "Oh, shush," because I'm still holding. I haven't started exhaling yet. So I love once I added in the hold, that made a big difference for me. I feel like I can feel my diaphragm better, and I love the long exhale. That's yeah.
so the reason why some people might do it the pursed lips is because, and if I feel really unregulated, I need the pursed lips.
You run out of the
Especially
breath.
if I'm seated, yeah. If I'm lying down, it's different because the body is more relaxed, but if I'm
I
seated,
can't lie down. I fall asleep. I have to sit up.
okay.
I'm
Yeah,
sleep
good.
deprived.
And again, like, yeah, that's I work with clients where they struggle to, hold the breath at the top or even breathe in for 4 whilst seated,
Yeah,
and they need to be lying down and more relaxed to be able to get to that breath capacity. It'll take us a little while to get there.
yeah.
So you probably can drop into that state, that softer state quickly.
I'm surprised. I'm such a highly strung person.
Mm.
We'll keep going, but if you're open to it in the future, I'd love a very specific breathwork episode if you want to give really good
Yeah,
guided tips. Yeah, that sounds
sure.
great.
I would
Um,
love that.
you have some very exciting programs coming up, Inner Alchemy and The Rest. How can our listeners find out more about these and what can they expect to achieve from these programs?
Yes. Okay. So I can send you some links to put in the show notes for sure. Inner Alchemy is, again, over all the years of experience that I've had teaching, holding space for people. It's over 20 years now. It's closer to 24, 25 years. Wow. Ouch. There's been a lot of, yeah, you'd say techniques and things that just genuinely work and that are practical. And I really, my thing is, I love teaching group yoga. Like that lights me up so much. And then there's something, and group breath work. Oof, when you get a group of people who are breathing in a really, cathartic, therapeutic way, it's pretty magic. But then I really love the personalized one-on-one where I can not teach you asana in particular, or sometimes we do, but more like, okay, what's going on for you? Let's tap into your inner environment. And right now, in this point of your life, what do you need? As opposed to coming to a class and getting
Yeah.
served a bunch of postures that are just generally for everybody.
Well,
So in the
not
evening
everyone's comfortable being vulnerable in a big group too, I would imagine. And do you get a lot of tears in the one-on-one? Like you mentioned how you had that big release when you first
mm,
got into it. Do you get that? Do people get emotional?
both group and one-on-ones.
Ah, mm.
And people are different. Like some people need that intimacy to feel comfortable enough to cry. Whereas I don't know, sometimes I feel more able, depending on who it's with, to cry in a group environment where there's lots of people and I'm in a
You're not
class.
as
I'm just
visible. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not as visible.
Yeah, yeah.
I can just have my own little
That
cry.
makes sense.
Yeah, I remember when I first started practicing yoga, I used to cry a lot because it was just releasing so much. But yeah, these
Beautiful.
in alchemy sessions, we work individually over a series of sessions, and it's all done on Zoom. And we tailor, we create. So there's a practice in every session, but by the end of it, you'll have your own recorded practice to do without me. So we want to make me um, not needed, not required, until, life changes again and you need another set of practices. So it's a set of, it could be breath works with some restorative yoga or yoga flow. It could be some yoga nidra with some meditation. It really is so personalized, but taking all of the tools from my toolkit so far, I go, okay, what can we do? And, there's some psychological work as well. We do a lot of that psychological sort of interweave with yogic philosophy. There's a program that I have traditionally run for the past 3 years called Spiritually Fit, and that's done in a group environment. So I guess it's really taking a lot of that and the yogic philosophy in that and personalizing it. So that's inner alchemy. And the rest, or the rest retreat, it's kind of modeled on another course that I ran last year called Nidra Magic. And it's basically taking that beautiful practice of yoga nidra, which I mentioned before, and going into the philosophy of that and lots of yogic philosophy around it. It's basically to restore your nervous system. And the practices that you'll find in that one. And again, it's a group one. It's a 4-week journey. We meet once a week on Zoom and you get 4 yoga nidra practices to have forever, beautifully recorded. And yeah, we dive into that because it's an art. It's not just lying down and letting me guide you through a process. The idea in yoga nidra, it's so magic. It's that it takes you through the layers of the brain waves and the subconscious, or the conscious mind, and you get to this state that is similar to in breathwork, this non-ordinary state. And in this non-ordinary state in yoga nidra, your body is so relaxed, but your mind is aware. So you're in this deep, relaxed state, and it takes practice. You're in this deeply relaxed body stone, but you're conscious, and you might have visions, you might have realizations, you might have moments of inspiration. I had someone in the last course, the Nidra Magic course that's now called The Rest, say she just has not stopped crying, and it's not a bad thing. She's like, it's just all this stuff that I've suppressed. So it's been huge for her healing journey.
Hey, listen, a good cry. I always say sometimes all you really need is a good cry or a good orgasm to let all the stress out of your body.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just that primal.
I was just, when I was waiting for you, right, before
Yeah.
this, I was looking at this amazing account where this guy has this, you've probably heard of it. He has this he does these GoFundMes for people who are less fortunate, have lost their wives, have no money, they've lost their,
Yes.
I don't know, whatever. And this one guy, I'm like the biggest Blink-182 fan out there. Like, I've loved Blink. And he's taken this really sick child and just met him in the street randomly, gave him a set of drumsticks. He's at the Blink-182 concert and he's like, I really want to get in. I don't have a ticket. Gives him these drumsticks and says, do you want to come meet me backstage? From Travis Barker, the drummer from Blink-182. Goes backstage. Travis is like drumming. I am bawling my eyes out. Is it about Travis and the fact that I love Blink-182 and this kid? No. It's the fact that I needed to have a release this morning.
Yes. Yes. YouTube cochlear ear transplants, when people can hear for the first time. I'm going to cry telling you, and they hear like a baby hearing their mother's voice for the first time, I
Oh,
have buckets. Or it is my go-to if I need a good release. Go listen to it. It is magic. It's, oh, look at the goosebumps. No, there's beauty in tears. I think it's really, release is so important. We're so in fight or flight. There's just beauty in it. And good for you on creating these programs. I think it's, this whole podcast is about filling up your cup. And at this time of year, we're sort of just in that race to finish, aren't we? And then in the new year, I'm always about investing in myself. And I love that, these programs are available. So I'll link everything in the show notes for our listeners. I think it
Amazing.
sounds
Thanks,
really,
Steph.
really beautiful. Really, really quick. This is all about you this episode, but I'd be remiss to not talk about the fact that you are married to the most famous footballer. Well, my husband's an ex-rugby league player, and I never have to worry about him with other women, but the face he makes when your husband comes on TV, he's like God in my house. But I cannot for the life of me get my husband to do any meditation or yoga. So my question is, does he do any of your practices, or is it just completely separate lifestyles in that
Okay, so
respect?
that's how we met. We met when I was walking with a friend who was also a player. So we're still playing at the time, and we were walking through Bronte Beach. We were doing the Bondi to Bronte. We saw Andrew. Anyway, they started chatting. We started chatting. He asked me if I knew anywhere I did yoga. I said, oh, yeah, there's this place in Paddington. Didn't tell him it was my studio. Also, to be honest, wasn't that interested because I was like, red flags there, that guy.
Yeah, right? My husband was a PT in football. I was like, you were a double walking red flag.
And anyway, he started coming to flow, and so he was doing yoga, and he had done yoga before. He'd done yoga on the north side. It really saved him from a lot of things, and
Great.
especially I think when he stopped playing. And he's super sensitive. Like some of the things he tells me that he experienced, he's had some of these experiences when he does get still, and even shavasana, some of the things he sees. I'm like, dude, if you had a regular practice, you'd be like astral traveling and doing all this sort of stuff.
So great to hear.
He doesn't he hasn't come to yoga for a little while. He'll probably come back. So but he appreciates the practices. Does he do it regularly? No, but like he's kind of open to it.
It's
But
really cool, but
it's
very smart. Yeah, that's awesome. But it's great that he was doing it when the career was ending, because that can be such a difficult transition when your whole life, I mean, they've worked since childhood towards his career, and then it can be a bit of a, struggle in the identity. So that's awesome that, that was something to
I think
guide
he's
you there.
actually just about to walk in the door too. So.
Really? I was worried I'd hit my husband, but I'm happy to say hi when he walks in, but I'll just quickly ask you, we'll just end on this one last question. What is something you'll be doing in the next week to fill up your cup? It sounds like you're very good on your self-care practices. What are you going to focus on in the next week leading into Christmas?
Probably create as many moments as I can for myself to cry.
Oh, I love that. Cochlear ear transplants. Go check it out after this.
I just felt like compelled to say that and just quiet. We can go against the grain. We don't have to get caught up in the craziness of it all. That's a choice.
Yeah.
And it's a choice that we unconsciously make sometimes, to get caught up in the chaos and the swell of it. But also we have a choice not to, and we can go against the grain, and we can stick to our rituals, and we can stay aligned. Like, how do we want to feel over this time? And,
Yes.
all about being in right relationship with whatever it is that you're consuming, be it, your beautiful glass of wine and champagne, or, quiet.
I completely agree. I had a recent solo episode about surviving the festive season. I said you can listen to my episode, but it's basically pretty simple. Say yes to the things that bring you joy and say no to the things that don't. Like, just lean into joy. You're in charge of your life. You can call the shots anytime you want. You don't have to get caught up in the pressure. I've enjoyed this so much, but I felt like I had so much more to ask. So we will definitely do another one if you're open to it. But thank you so much for sharing with the community. I think it's been super helpful, and everyone check out the links in the show notes, and please do something in the next week to fill up your cup. I just realized it's the last episode before Christmas, so I wanted to jump back in here and wish you a very Merry Christmas for yourself and your loved ones. I hope you really eat some good food and take some time to be merry with you look so cute. Be merry with your loved ones, and yes, and really take some time to fill up your cup. And I won't have an episode on the week of the 23rd of December, but I'll be back on the 30th of December for a solo episode, because I really want to be present for this one and really enjoy Christmas. Merry Christmas, and I'll talk to you very soon.